Good afternoon. The Senate Finance Committee is now in a voting session. And we'll get started now. I'll ask everybody, colleagues, to speak up as distinctly as you can because it's hard for us to even hear each other with the mask. And I'm sure members of the public who might be viewing our session are having a difficult time trying to understand us. All right, we're ready.
First up today, back again, is Senate Bill 172, which establishes a process for designating health equity resource communities to target state resources to specific areas of the state to reduce health disparities, improve health outcomes and access to primary care, promote prevention services, and reduce health care costs and hospital admissions and readmissions. There's a reprint before you that represents compromise amendments developed between B&T and Finance. A work group met yesterday and came to agreement on control of the full HERC program, the composition of the advisory committee, and the HBCU evaluator provision. The compromise amendments return control of the HERC program to MDH, from MDH to the Commission. It retains changes to the advisory committee that the Finance Committee passed, as well as the provision authorizing HBCUs to serve as an evaluator.
All right. Are there any questions? Senator Biden.
The bill is amended.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, please raise your hands. All right. That's unanimous. Thank you.
So, excuse me, next on the list is Senate Bill 469. This is the bill that relates to the Medicaid program and reimbursement of applied behavioral analysis services. This bill was heard some time ago, and the hang-up was that there was a fiscal note, but I'll just quickly describe the bill and just explain that the amendments that the House adopted addresses the fiscal note. So the bill prohibits the Maryland Department of Health from conditioning reimbursement of applied behavior analysis services provided to Medicaid recipients under the early periodic screening, diagnosis, and treatment benefit on the presence or availability of the parent or caregiver in the setting where the services are provided. And the sponsor is offering amendments that would align the Senate bill with the bill that the House has passed out. And the amendments provide that it provides authorization to the Medicaid program to establish reasonable standards for the involvement of a parent or caregiver, including requiring notification from the parent or caregiver of the decision of the parent or caregiver not to be present or available when the program provides applied behavior analysis services to a Medicaid recipient. MDH has to, in consultation with stakeholders, adopt regulations to implement the provisions of the bill, and the amendments move up the effective date to June 1st. And with these amendments, it addresses the fiscal note. The revised fiscal note says that the department can handle the responsibilities within existing resources.
Okay. Can we get a motion to adopt the amendments?
Yeah, move favorable on the bill as amended. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? If not, then all in favor of the motion as amended, please raise your hand. All right, that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
And House Bill 598 is the same bill. It's the House bill which implements the changes that I just described. So the motion would be favorable on that bill.
Favorable. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
The next bill on the list is House Bill 80. This is similar to Senate Bill 359, which the Senate passed earlier this session, and it requires the Department of Transportation to develop an urban tree program to replace trees that are removed during construction of a transportation facility project, including the area impacted by the Purple Line project. The sponsor is offering a clarifying amendment, I think after some additional feedback, and I think the same amendment is going to be offered on the Senate bill. But the language clarifies that it may not be construed to abrogate or limit the applicability of any requirements or other provisions in the natural resources article that apply to the replacement of trees that are removed during the construction of a transportation facility project. The amendment also specifies that the Department of Transportation must consult with the Department of Natural Resources Forest Service in developing the program.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
For the amendment, so this is for the amendment that the sponsor is offering.
Okay. All right. The vice chair has moved the amendment. Senator Bidle, are you seconding? Yes. Okay. Any discussion on the amendment? All right. On the bill as amended, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you.
The next bill on the list is House Bill 123. I think this is one that we'll discuss at the end of the voting session, just to review some changes between the differences between the Senate bill and the House bill.
Okay, so you want to hold it till the end?
Yes.
Okay, we'll come back to this one. Okay. So we're going in what, to
Next bill is
368?
the next bill is House Bill 368. This bill is similar to Senate Bill 100, which passed the Senate earlier this session. It establishes the Task Force on Oral Health in Maryland. The House added a representative from the Maryland Rural Health Association to the task force. That's the one difference between the House bill and the Senate bill. So if the committee finds that acceptable, then the motion would be favorable.
Favorable.
Okay, do we have a second?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Not all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. And where is the Senate bill?
It's passed.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So the next bill is House Bill 457. This bill is virtually identical to Senate Bill 149, which passed the Senate earlier this session. It's the bill that makes permanent an exemption from the 2% insurance premium tax for the Maryland Automobile Insurance Fund. The reason it's not on a consent calendar is because there is a very, very small technical difference between the two bills. It's an issue of an and versus an or. The House bill has the better language, so the motion would be favorable on the House bill, and the Senate the House is expected to amend the Senate bill to conform to the House bill.
Okay. And all right, we've got a motion. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you.
The next bill is the Optum bill, House Bill 919. This is the emergency bill that's similar to Senate Bill 638, which passed the Senate earlier this session. This is the bill that requires the Maryland Insurance Commissioner to enforce statutory performance standards relating to the payment of claims against the Administrative Services Organization, or ASO, that's responsible for managing care and paying claims for the Maryland Public Behavioral Health System. The House amended the bill to prohibit the ASO from using state funds or passing through to the state expenses for a market conduct examination that's performed by the Maryland Insurance Administration. In addition, the House prohibited MIA from requiring the payment of interest on claims or imposing fines if it determines that the ASO will use the state funds or pass the cost of the interest or penalty to the state. The House also required MIA to submit its findings from clean claim complaint investigations to MIA. The House also requires MIA to submit any market conduct examination reports of an ASO to certain legislative committees in the General Assembly, and then established a termination date for the bill. Those are the differences.
Okay, so the House did some really good work there, what they did. So they were slick enough that they wanted the state to pay for their being, okay, all right. Could we get a motion? Okay. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
The next bill is House Bill 28. This bill is identical to Senate Bill 5 that passed the Senate earlier. It's not on the consent calendar because the vote in the Senate was not unanimous. House Bill 28 requires applicants for the renewal of a license or certificate issued by a health occupations board to attest to the completion of an approved implicit bias training program. Beginning in fiscal 2023, the governor must include in the annual budget bill an appropriation for the Office of Minority Health and Health Disparities, an amount that is greater of either $1.78 million or 0.012% of the total funds appropriated to the Department of Health in the fiscal year, which is consistent with the current level of funding. The office is also required to publish certain health data on its website at least every 6 months.
Okay.
Second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, that's unanimous. Oh, wait a minute, who's? Okay, all right, you got the numbers, okay.
The next bill is House Bill 78. This bill establishes the Maryland Commission on Health Equity to, one, employ a health equity framework and specified examinations, provide advice on issues of racial, ethnic, cultural, or socioeconomic health disparities, facilitate coordination of expertise and experience in developing a comprehensive health equity plan addressing the social determinants of health, and finally sets goals for health equity and prepare a plan for the state to achieve health equity in alignment with other state planning activities. The Commission is required to submit a certain annual report, and the 2023 report must include findings and recommendations on the health effects occurring in the state as a result of specified factors. The cross-file for this bill, Senate Bill 52, passed the Senate unanimously. However, the House bill has the preamble to the bill intact, which was removed from the Senate bill.
Who's favorable on the bill as amended with preamble?
Senator, Mr. Vice Chair.
I don't want to open up a can of worms here. So I don't know. But we did have a discussion about this whole topic the first time around. So I'm not sure what to say other than.
Well, we do want the two bills to end up in the same posture. Now, there are two ways of doing it. Yes.
My understanding is that the House intends to return the preamble to the Senate bill.
Well, it's not the end of the world. Do you want to pass it that way? And now that she was our, this very day, first citizen. Okay. So somebody make a motion to do what you want us to do. All right, Senator.
I'd like to move that we
Oh, okay. All right, it's moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, we got one negative of Hershey is not.
I'd like to pass on this vote. I think I voted on this bill enough times already.
Okay, you got a right to pass. Okay, so he passed. Oh, everybody else voted for it. Okay, we're now down to what, 298?
Yes, House Bill 298 is identical to Senate Bill 83 that passed the Senate earlier this year. It's on this list rather than the consent calendar because there was some opposition in the Senate. House Bill 298 requires the power plant research program to include an evaluation of the impact of electric power plants on climate change as part of its ongoing research. As you recall, the amendments to the Senate bill struck from the bill provisions that would have required gas and electric companies to report certain project and wage benefit information to the PSC.
Move favorable.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in, is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, please raise your hand. And I'm going to remind all of us, that's unanimous, to remember that you've got a public trying to listen in, and I can barely hear you guys, so that's why I'm shouting.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
just, I'm not sure that was unanimous. I think we've been jumping the gun a little bit, but
Okay.
I think there was some dissenters, so I want to
Okay,
make sure
then that's
that.
fine. All right, so be sure, raise your hand again. Let's just be sure what we got. Oh, okay. Okay, the bill passes, and she's noting. Okay. Okay.
The next bill is House Bill 569. This bill, in substance, is identical to the Senate Bill 407, which doubled the statewide limit on net energy metering capacity. The amendment reflected in the reprint in front of you adds a technical change in order to conform the House bill to the Senate bill as it passed.
Okay, can we get a motion?
Favorable.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Not all in favor of the motion as amended, please raise your hand. Okay,
So this one is unanimous?
yes, okay. All right,
The next bill, House Bill 599, requires the Department of Health to develop and publish certain materials to assist Maryland residents with long-term care planning. The reprint before you reflects an amendment that conforms the House bill to the Senate bill and requires the department to ensure that the materials published are understandable to individuals with limited literacy skills.
okay, can we get a motion?
Favorable.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? All right, then all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that one looks unanimous. Thank you.
House Bill 658 establishes the work group to study the transformation of manufacturing in Maryland's digital economy. It's cross-file Senate Bill 444, passed the Senate earlier this year at a nearly unanimous vote. The amendments here, and reflected in the reprint in front of you, adds members to the work group. I have been informed and promised to pass along that the House does not agree with the addition of the members.
Say that again.
I've been told to tell the committee that the members of the House committee do not agree with the addition of the members that the Senate Finance Committee added when we voted Senate Bill 444.
Well, Madam Chair, I
Yes.
would move that we amend the bill so it's in the same posture as the Senate bill as passed. That's right.
Any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Okay.
I'm going to pass on that one. I'm
Okay.
expecting my delegate here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what, you're a no?
All right, there are 2 noes, so it's 9-2. Okay. All right.
I'm a no.
So we will send the back to them, correct, as amended to the same posture as the Senate
Senator
bill?
Klausmeier.
Thank you.
What were the amendments? I
I
mean,
believe they added 3 entities.
Sorry, Tammy, I keep pushing the button. So the amendment to House Bill 658 conforms the House bill to the Senate bill. On page 3, you can see the addition of the 3 members. I think they were offered by Senators West, Reedy, and Kramer.
okay, and, yeah, I mean, I don't understand it.
No, there was no additional information as to why.
And, you know, the, not the sponsor, but the person who told me about the amendments, he was just trying to be inclusive.
We got to hear, and the public needs to hear.
He was trying to be inclusive.
Correct.
As we just had that bill today.
Correct.
He was trying to make sure.
Okay.
Okay, so the final bill is House Bill 1293. This bill is the cross-file for Senate Bill 783. It establishes the West North Avenue Development Authority. The reprint in front of you makes 2 changes. The first, on the final page, conforms the date that the report is due to the Senate bill, to be in 2023. And then the second amendment, which is found on page 3 of 4 of the reprint, adds 2 additional members to the authority and spells out how those 2 additional members will be selected. Senator Hayes is offering this amendment. I would note that further, Roman numeral 7 is going to be additionally changed to say that collectively the leadership of the Reservoir Hill Improvement Council, the Reservoir Hill Association, and Upper Utah Madison will collectively decide how they will support the appointment of the 2 resident members to the advisory
And
committee.
this is his district, and he knows his district. So,
Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
One more question.
All right, wait a minute. Senator Benson has the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. For the funds that this authority receives, is that still under the auspices of the Baltimore City? How are the funds for this authority, for the development authority handled? Is it handled through the city?
So the House bill was amended to be identical to the Senate bill previously, with the exception of that issue with the year. In terms of the funding, the authority is authorized to manage appropriated funds from Baltimore City and the state. So that's on page 3 of 4 in line 20.
Okay, so the money comes first to Baltimore.
This is
From the
money
city.
that's for Baltimore, and some of it comes from the state and some from the city, and it's dealing with how it will be managed in the city. And Senator Hayes is the city representative here who,
All right, okay, I just wanted to.
okay. Are there any further questions? If not, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, it's all but Jennings, okay. Okay.
Okay, the next bill on the list on page 3 is House Bill 107.
Could we listen, guys, please?
This is, House Bill 107 is the same as Senate Bill 499, but it's on this list because there were some votes against on the floor. It authorizes over-the-counter products in vending machines.
Move favorable.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor, please raise your hand.
In the committee, you did, yes. So, Most of you were the same on the floor, some of you weren't.
Just go ahead and write it without reading. Don't worry about it. Okay, he voted yes before he's known it. All right, so it's 10-1. All right.
Okay, the next bill on your list is House Bill 174. This is the same as Senate Bill 95. It subjects underground gas utility projects for a investor-owned utility to prevailing wages. Yes.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, 9-2. Thank you.
Okay, the next bill on your list is House Bill 261. Now, you'll see on your list that there's not a cross file, but it is identical. Well, as introduced, it was identical to Senate Bill 135. This is the bill that deals with exempting, or not exempting, I would say, but saying that these electric fences built inside existing fences would not be subject to any specific local government approval. There is a difference in the bill, which you considered over here. I don't know, maybe the sponsor has spoken to folks about this bill on the Senate bill. That's Senator Klossmeyer. The House on the floor added deer fencing and livestock fencing. These types of fencing would be excluded from this, that would not be included as a battery charged fence security system. So the committee considered it and sent it out without this amendment, so there is a difference here.
Okay, Senator Jennings.
I understand why they offered that amendment, but that's agricultural fence, which is already unregulated. So I don't know if by adding that, it might cause issues down the road.
All right,
So I would
Senator
say
The only
Klossmeyer.
thing, I don't know, they haven't told me, but they just said that the Farm Bureau really wanted it, so that's all I know.
All right, so we've got to decide what we're doing. So what is our motion?
You have two choices. You can either conform this to the Senate bill, which means it would be favorable with amendment, or you can take their amendment, which would be a favorable amendment.
I say keep it in the Senate and let Farm Bureau come argue with us.
Okay. All right, so the motion is to conform to the Senate bill.
Be favorable with
Do
amendments.
we have a second? Okay, all right. Is there any further discussion on this motion? If not, if you're ready for the question, raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay. Favorable. All right, who's no?
He was the only no on the floor.
Okay, that's all right. That's 10-1.
He's consistent. I know. Okay, the next bill is Senate Bill 507. This is, I'm sorry, House Bill 554, which is almost the same as Senate Bill 507, which is sponsored by Senator Kelly. This bill requires assisted living programs to report to the Attorney General if these programs are appointed as a representative payee, the use of Social Security or other government benefits in that facility or in that program. There were some amendments offered, and the language is largely the same, and there were some amendments to what the Office of Healthcare Quality has to report if there's allegations of abuse. That's amended to be the same, but the Senate bill has an additional requirement under the report to the Attorney General's office, which says that the Office of Healthcare Quality shall notify the division, consumer division, of the appointment of an assisted living program as a resident's representative payee at the request of the resident within a reasonable time after being made aware of the appointment. Senator Kelly, I believe, would like to add this language to the House bill, but take out at the request of the resident. Is that correct, Senator?
That's right, because the residents are old. If they need somebody to manage their funds, they're not able to report this or to give consent to it. So that doesn't make sense.
So you would want to take
Just
this,
delete
move
that.
favorable with that amendment and
Right.
and make it closer to the Senate bill.
Right. So could we get a motion? Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, the next bill on your list is Senate Bill, or House Bill 894, which is in the same posture as the Senate Bill 746. This is the authorizes community colleges to, employees of community colleges to delve into collective bargaining.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? All right, if not, then all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, it's 9-2. All right, thank you.
At 3.
All right, 8-3.
Did you
Okay.
say, why is it on the list? Isn't it the same as the House? Oh, it wasn't.
It had there was opposition in committee and on the floor.
To leave the dark side.
Okay, let's maintain decorum.
Okay,
guys.
all the bills on this list are, for some reason, weren't, you'll get to the next list, I'll explain what the next list is. So the last bill on the list is,
You had one more.
I know, House Bill 904 is practically the same as Senate Bill 717. This bill alters new employee processing procedures. The sponsor of the Senate bill worked out compromise amendments between AFSCME and the University of Maryland system. They are not in the House bill, so I think the Senate bill is the preferred version. So if you want it, you would make a request. You should move to conform the House bill to the Senate bill.
Well, move to conform.
Yeah, move to
the House
conform.
bill to the Senate bill, please.
Okay. Okay, any discussion on this motion? All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. You got it.
And then you have a whole nother list here before you get back to the bill that Patrick was discussing about telehealth. This is a consent calendar. All of these bills are identical to this, all these House bills are identical to the Senate bill, and they passed the Senate unanimously. There are 3 changes to this list.
Please listen carefully, guys.
If you go to page 4 of this extensive list, House Bill 556, 558, and 578 are requested to be held off this list.
And I'll just be honest, my crossfire bills have been sitting in ECM since the 9th of February. They're word for word the same, and I'm not going to ask you guys to vote for them till they send us back our bills.
Repeat those numbers for us.
The top 3 on page 4 or 5.
Yeah, House Bill 556, House Bill 558, and House Bill 578 are all held.
Crazy.
So other than that, the rest of the bills on this list you can take up as a packet, or we could go through each one, but they all passed. They're all identical and passed the Senate unanimously.
Madam Chair, I'd move that we take the rest of the other bills on the list and vote them up or down on the consent calendar. Yeah.
Okay, we got a motion to take the rest of the list as a consent calendar. Do we have a second? Okay, Senator Klossmeyer, second. All right, come on, let's finish up right quick.
We already have one. This is the second one. I'm playing nice in the sandbox.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Okay, so.
All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Thank you. All right, that passes. Okay.
Okay, back to House Bill 123. This is the Preserve Telehealth Access Act of 2021, the bill that expands Medicaid and health insurance coverage, reimbursement requirements for services provided through telehealth. The Senator Augustine can can elaborate, but there's still some discussion underway regarding differences between the House bill and the Senate bill. So I will spare you walking through the reprint that's prepared. But I did prepare a chart just to highlight some of the key sort of significant differences between the two bills, just to update the committee on where the two bills stand with respect to the posture. So you have a chart in front of you. Starting with health insurance, this is really where I think, some of the more, this is House Bill 123.
You're looking at the chart you have. You see the chart comparing the two bills, Senate Bill 3 and House Bill 123. Okay.
Okay, so starting with health insurance, this is really, I think, where some of the more significant points of difference are in the moment between the Senate and the House. Senate Bill 3 has a provision relating to originating site coverage requirements. So there's a requirement in the Senate bill that would require carriers to cover telehealth services regardless of the location of the patient at the time the services are provided. House Bill 123, it does not include this provision. The next is regarding patient choice provisions in the bill. In Senate Bill 3, a carrier is required to allow an insured to select the manner in which a healthcare service is delivered as clinically appropriate under the health occupations article. And the House does not include this provision, and I think this is probably one of the more significant points of difference between the two bills. In particular, I think the health insurance carriers have raised some concerns about this, and some discussions are continuing. Another provision in Senate Bill 3.
But let me back up and just ask you, while we're on this one, where we're different right now, what do you see as advantages and disadvantages between the two on this issue?
So the behavioral health advocates have favored a provision like this, which would require a carrier to allow an individual to select an in-person visit and cover that if that's what they wanted, or have a telehealth visit if that's what they wanted. And this specifically relates patient choice, and this specifically relates to network adequacy. So I think the best example I can give is if a carrier has to ensure that they have enough providers in their network, in their plan, so that an individual has access to a provider within 7 days. Say, for example, if it's a psychiatrist, then this provision is interpreted by the carriers, and I think the proponents of it would require that carrier to ensure that that person could have access to an in-person visit within that time frame if that's what they wanted. But the challenge is that some of the carriers think that they need the flexibility in putting together their networks. If they want to have, for example, a plan that offers a narrow network of providers and the ability to utilize telehealth to leverage those services to expand their provider network.
Let me say,
they want that. They're concerned about that limitation, and that this provision would interfere with some ongoing discussions that have been underway at the MIA regarding network adequacy.
Okay, I'm going to call on you in a minute, Senator. My take would be that we do better to do what the patient's needs are. We're talking about up to a 7-day wait. And some of these people don't have the ability, given where they live. There's not 5G, there's not broadband. They don't own any digital equipment. They're essential workers having to go to work, and they need to be able to be seen. And not all symptoms can be equally accessed and understood digitally. So I think we ought to give some concern. Senator Augustine, then Vice Chair Feldman.
Madam Chair, that's why we put this provision in, precisely what you just said. And so you articulated already That's why it's here. This is why we're trying our best to maintain that patient choice and make sure that people aren't steered by virtue of not making sure this provision is here, trying to get them into a place where they don't belong or into a service that they don't want because they don't have the choice. So that's what this is about.
Vice Chairman?
Yeah, Madam Chair, because of how we just handled this, and I think what might be helpful here is, and maybe even go back to the first one, maybe instead of going through all the differences, maybe we do take this on one item at a time. So we had a nice discussion, pros and cons, and then we can kind of reach consensus one way or the other about each of the items as opposed to,
Okay.
again, going through the laundry list. And I think for each item, Patrick, it would be helpful to give a little bit pros, cons, who's for it. And I think, so on this issue, maybe somebody would want to move, or we could take a straw vote on each item, starting with this
Okay.
one and then go back.
So on this issue, you were making a motion.
It wasn't that I was going to make a motion, but what I did want to share was this. We met with, myself and Patrick, we met with Delegate Cullison. We discussed the areas where we still have some work to do. And this one is the one that still, the one that you were just talking about. The rest of these, we're okay. So we really don't, it's just right now Patrick is explaining, but we're expecting to get some language back. We're going to ask to hold this bill, get some language back on this particular one that you guys immediately keyed in on to try to see if we can come to some agreement. The other ones is just more of an explanation of the situation. It's technical, and the committee councils are working through it.
Okay.
Never mind then. Okay, with that
Okay, so
explanation
in
then,
light
yeah.
of that, why don't we hold this bill today and let Patrick and his counterpart in the House and the senator who's been working on it get it in form for us to consider.
Madam Chair, all we were trying to do is just make sure Patrick shared with the committee kind of what it was, the things. There's only a couple more left.
I would suggest then, let him go through the differences so we all know where the differences are. We just know that we're going to hold this, and fair enough.
1293 back up.
I'll make one additional comment about this patient choice provision for the sake of completeness. I will say that the carriers would offer potentially another reason why they would have concerns about this bill in addition to the network adequacy piece. I think that they would contend that they would like the flexibility to be able to offer plan designs, affordable plan designs, perhaps catastrophic plans for certain assureds who might not have an issue with telehealth as the modality of treatment that they would get for certain services. So they envision that there potentially would be plan offerings in the future where maybe you would be required to see someone first through a telehealth visit and then get a referral thereafter to an in-person visit.
Let me ask you a question then. Could we say that if the patient, the insurer, and the provider agree that telehealth will work in a given case, then you do telehealth?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the approach that is taken in the legislation. That coverage for telehealth services must be provided when that's appropriate, but
we want to specify who has to help make the decision. If you've got a patient saying, "I have no way to do that," or the symptom that I have, I can't see how the doctor can tell or see what I'm talking about, or if you have the doc or the provider saying this will work or it won't work, or the insurer, the three would have to agree would be telehealth.
right, and that is what this reference is in this provision that would require a carrier to allow an insured to select the manner in which the healthcare service is delivered as clinically appropriate under the health occupations articles. So what's contemplated is that the provider would be participating in that decision about what type of visit is appropriate for a given service.
Okay, Senator Augustine?
Yeah, in other words, I think what he's saying is that's part of what we contemplated in the language that we have, Madam Chair. That's the part with the clinical part, that gets to the provider. And like we said, that gets the patient, we're providing that protection for the patient to choice, but they still got to get with their provider to make sure that it's clinically necessary, clinically appropriate. So we feel like that's what we put in there
Okay.
to address what you're talking about.
Okay. All right. You want
Just
to
the next related provision in this patient choice category is a prohibition on a carrier from requiring an insured to use telehealth in lieu of an in-person service delivery. So there's a provision just like that, as I stated in Senate Bill 3. House Bill 123 has a similar provision, but this provision only applies to behavioral health services.
Okay. Makes sense.
So the next issue is the reimbursement parity category. This is where the bills specify that reimbursement parity for telehealth generally does not include clinic facility fees. The House bill also has that language, but they also include this clarification that it doesn't include clinic facility fees and any room and board fees. And this is in Senate Bill 3, in the Medicaid section of the bill, there's this clarification about room and board fees, but it wasn't included in the insurance section. So what the House did is they essentially included the same language in both the Medicaid part of the bill and the insurance part of the bill.
Okay. So facility fees and room and board fees and all that stuff are not included unless they really are applicable and used.
Right. Yes, exactly. So the reimbursement parity provision doesn't include facility fees unless that's the only way that the provider can get paid because they can't bill a professional fee, and that provision is the same in both bills.
Okay. And Senator Hayes?
I guess I just wanted clarity. What's the difference practically, Patrick, between the facility fee and a room and board
A
fee?
person listening can't hear you.
Oh, what's the difference between the facility fees and the room and board fees?
Yeah, so the facility fee is just the charge that that hospital might charge to collect some of its costs. The room and board fees was addressing a more specific issue that Maryland Medicaid raised about some of these residential treatment facilities.
Gotcha. Okay.
Remember the facility fees we were dealing with last session?
Yes.
Because they are charging sometimes when you don't even know you've been in a
Right,
private
and if the
facility.
doctors just so happen to be in that hospital, I got it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think with the rest of the provisions, I can run through them fairly quickly.
Okay.
There's a difference in the Medicaid part of the bill. Senate Bill 3 retains some current law language that says that the provision of telehealth services by Medicaid is subject to the limitations of the state budget, which I think is already implied generally, but that specific language is retained. The House struck that provision, but I think it's likely that they'll amend the I think it's likely that they will go with the Senate language.
Okay. Well, we'll bring it out with our language on that.
On the next page of the chart, there's a requirement. This is similar to the provision we just discussed for insurance, which says that Medicaid must allow an enrollee to select the manner in which a healthcare service is delivered as clinically appropriate under the health occupations article. The House doesn't include that. There's also this provision that prohibits Medicaid from requiring an enrollee to use telehealth in lieu of in-person service delivery. The House bill also has that provision, but only applies it to behavioral health services. And then finally, Senate bill.
You could have some people die because they aren't really seen in person, and the symptoms they have you can't really examine. Okay, go ahead.
Last difference, the Senate bill has a requirement on the health department to revise its regulations regarding telehealth reimbursed by Medicaid to ensure that those requirements for reimbursement of mental health and substance use disorder services delivered through telehealth comply with the federal Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act. The House did not include that requirement.
Okay, I think that's a good requirement. What do you guys think? We ought to keep it, okay. Anytime the feds are trying to protect us, we need all the protection we can get. Okay. Senator Augustine.
Yeah, I just wanted to just reiterate, I thank Patrick for all the work he's put in, and we're continuing to work on this. I would ask that we hold it, if you're okay.
That's
just
right.
So that we can, well, we just
He's
wanted to make
giving
sure
us
everybody
an
had a
update,
sense.
And I want you guys to finish working.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
There's one additional change that is required to House Bill 1293, which we moved favorable. This is a cross-file to Senator Hayes' bill that deals with the Northwest Avenue Development Authority. And that is, in order to conform the House bill to the Senate bill, we also need to change a month for the due date of the report from July to October. So we would need to move favorable with amendment again.
All right, can we get an amendment? Okay. Who's that? All right. All in favor, please raise your hand. We're just changing the month to make the two bills comply. Okay. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. All right. Thanks so much, colleagues.